If the April 2nd Nintendo Direct is to be believed, then Hollow Knight Silksong will finally be releasing in 2025. And if that ends up being the case, I'd like to bring up a discussion that has been had before, but I think now that we're closing in on the supposed release date, should be brought up once again. And that discussion being, of course, how will Silksong connect to Hollow Knight? And in this video, we are going to specifically narrow in on how Silksong might connect to any of Hollow Knight's 5 different endings. But now let's turn off our Silk Post flare and actually talk about some legitimate theories. Hollow Knight has 5 different endings: the Hollow Knight, Sealed Siblings, Dream No More, Embrace the Void, and the Delicate Flower ending. And we know with about 99% certainty that the events of Silksong will take place after the events of Hollow Knight. And I think it's very important that we hone in on a very specific and important detail from both Team Cherry and the various Silksong trailers. Hornet is captured against her will and brought to Farloom. Hornet didn't go there of her own volition, she just ends up there after being captured. So I think it's very important that we discuss how she may have been captured based on the 5 different endings. Also, full disclosure, this is primarily speculation. And I think it's also important to acknowledge the possibility / likelihood that Silksong will probably have multiple endings as well, and those endings might not necessarily be related to Hollow Knight, but that's kind of what we're here to speculate, is if they're related to Hollow Knight, how? So I want to dive right into the Sealed Siblings ending. If there is an ending in Silksong that is connected to the Sealed Siblings ending in Hollow Knight, how's that gonna work with Hornet trapped inside of the Temple of the Black Egg? I don't know about you, but I don't think a couple of scouts from Farloom are gonna have the magical or technical know-how to break that seal. So if Hornet isn't captured from within the Black Egg, if she isn't physically broken out, then maybe, just maybe, she doesn't leave the Black Egg at all. Perhaps, just perhaps, Farloom and the entirety of Silksong itself is nothing but a giant dream. Hollow Knight showed us just how important and prominent dreams are in this world. So if we're going with the Sealed Siblings ending, maybe all of the events of Farloom happen within Hornet's mind. Perhaps she's reliving an experience before Hallownest, or perhaps her mind is being projected somewhere. I don't know, but I think that'd be a pretty interesting twist for an ending. But let's move on to some of the other Hollow Knight endings and the far more in-depth and interesting connections they could have to Silksong. And I think the most obvious one, right out the gate, is the Embrace the Void ending. We've all seen that ending about 1,000 times, I reckon, and I reckon all of us are wondering, what the hell is going on with the Shade Lord? Like, what is he going to do now that he has escaped from the realm of dreams? So we know that Hornet was captured, so perhaps those Farloom scouts were sent to abduct Hornet because Farloom's government, I guess? Kingdom. Farloom's kingdom blames Hornet for the release of the Shade Lord. Perhaps we learned something that the Shade Lord had come and attacked a part of Farloom, and Hornet is sort of blamed for it in a wrong time, wrong place sort of situation. But something tells me that just a couple of random scouts probably won't have the skill or know-how to take down a seasoned warrior like Hornet. So maybe, just maybe, they don't abduct her because they think she's some kind of crazy criminal. Perhaps they capture her because they found her injured or near death. Perhaps Hornet and the Hollow Knight, since we know he breaks out after the Shade Lord also escapes, perhaps her and the Hollow Knight both get injured, maybe the Hollow Knight is killed. Perhaps they are injured after the Shade Lord starts going on its rampage and the Farloom scouts just find them there and are like, okay, let's take them back to the kingdom. So if there is any sort of nod or continuation of the quote-unquote Shade Lord ending or the Embrace the Void ending, I think it's probable, maybe not 100% certain, but probable that Hornet was only captured because she was injured in a battle against the Shade Lord. Either way, you don't just drop an ending like Embrace the Void and leave it completely unfinished. So I'm at least hopeful that we'll get something relating to him in Silksong, or at least some sort of nod or detail about him. But let's take a break from some of the deeper theories and look at the most simple of endings and simple of theories. The simple, the Hollow Knight ending and how that might connect to Silksong. So in this ending, the Knight completely ignores Hornet. It's just like, yeah, I'm here to serve a purpose, and I'm gonna continue to keep the machine a-running. He becomes the new Hollow Knight, yada yada yada, the cycle perpetuates, the infection doesn't stop, we all know the story. So now that there's a new Hollow Knight, did Hornet leave Hallownest after feeling that there was nothing more she could do? Or maybe the infection got so bad that she had to start sort of patrolling and kind of living on the outskirts of Hallownest, and then maybe she was jumped by these Farloom scouts and then captured. Honestly, this ending, the Hollow Knight, the normal ending, if we're sort of trying to connect that to Silksong, I feel like this is the one with the most loose threads, aside from Sealed Siblings. And even then, Sealed Siblings has a little bit more substance going on because dream theory could be a thing, and, you know, maybe there's some, you know, in the crazy event that the Farloom scouts somehow break into the Black Egg, even that has a tiny bit more substance than the normal ending. So I would say that the Hollow Knight, the normal ending, is probably the least likely to have any sort of connection to Silksong. But it's entirely possible I could be missing some detail or forgetting about something just because the world of Hallownest is just so vast and huge. Either way, let's move on to the theory that I kind of did the most research on / have the most information about, just because there are some direct visual connections. And that is the Delicate Flower ending. So in the Delicate Flower ending, it's exactly the same as Embrace the Void, but this time the Shade Lord gets blinked away by one of the Delicate Flowers. In the full opening cutscene for Silksong, we see this little white bug come and land on top of Hornet's cage. The cage has a seal of binding on it, keeping Hornet from sort of using her magic / powers. But this bug, not only is it pure white and glowing white, it's also accompanied by little glowing white flower petals. And when it sits on the cage, it breaks the seal of binding, and Hornet breaks out. We all know the rest. But that little white bug that frees Hornet reminds me a lot, visually and even mechanically, of the Delicate Flowers. The Delicate Flowers are, well, first of all, very delicate, drama, but we also know that they are extremely powerful if they can stop something like the Shade Lord from breaking out of the dream world. So perhaps they don't just only zap away Void, but zap away any kind of magic, really, sort of cancel out other forms of magic. And then in the Silksong Game Pass reveal trailer, we see an area for just about a couple seconds, maybe not even 3, that has white flowers growing everywhere. I don't think they're delicate flowers, but they semi-resemble the delicate flowers, and there's just a whole emphasis on white petals and white flowers. And this little white bug in this, you know, area we see for like half a second isn't the only time we see white flower petals. And the presumed first battle with the iconic lace is also held in a place where there's a bunch of white flower petals on the ground. If there's one thing I can say with absolute certainty is that we are going to learn, or at least get more details about the delicate flowers in Farloom. And who knows, it's possible that Farloom is where the delicate flowers come from, because it's confirmed that they do not come from Hallownest. So perhaps there will be an ending where we sort of learn about the power of the delicate flowers, or how it will, maybe there'll be an ending that explains why it was able to blink away the Shade Lord and blink away that seal of binding that was keeping Hornet trapped. But I'd say that the delicate flowers are definitely the most strong and concrete link between the world of Hallownest and the world of Farloom. And as for the Dream No More ending, well, it's kind of like the ending that Hornet wanted in Hallownest. The cycle is finally broken, the Radiance is dead, and the infection is supposedly subsiding. I think it's possible, maybe not likely, but a possibility, a vague possibility, that those scouts that captured Hornet may have been some kind of religious zealots. Perhaps there were people in Farloom that worshipped the Radiance, or perhaps the Radiance once was a part of Farloom, but then migrated to Hallownest, and, you know, there's some sort of ancient, like, really old religion that only a couple people practice, and these scouts may have been religious zealots who captured Hornet after she had a major hand in the complete and utter annihilation of the Radiance. It's a bit of a stretch, but it makes for some nice food for thought. Either way, one thing's for certain. We will know what kind of connection Silksong has to Hollow Knight when and if Silksong comes out this year. I'm a doubter myself, and feel free to shame me all you want, but I really do want the game to come out. I feel like the doubter name has kind of just become synonymous with just blatant haters or people who just don't like the game because it's taking so long. But that's not true. I'd wager that most doubters want the game to come out just as much as believers. They're just afraid to show it because they don't want to get their little hearts broken. But since I'm talking about random stuff now, you've probably figured out that this is where I'm going to be ending the video. If this is your first time on my channel, or if you're a longtime viewer, let me know if you want me to do more theorizing type videos like this. They're pretty fun. I don't really like the research part of them, and I don't really like that part, but if you want to see more of this type of stuff and you think I do a decent enough job at it, then be sure to hit the like and sub button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you really like the way I do things and you want to show me a little bit of extra extra support, then definitely consider becoming a channel member. Not only do you directly support me in the process, but you also get access to a whole bunch of exclusive rewards in the process. And speaking of exclusive perks, I have moved the early video access perk down to the lowest tier. So if you want to see my videos early on top of a whole bunch of other stuff, just $3 a month to be a member. And of course, shout out to the members in general. You are all amazing people and I love you. But that's gonna do for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and yeah, have a good day, everyone.